Hi everybody, Natasha Koch here with the Van City Home Team, and I'm here on Tuesday live for the Van City Scoop. Today we're going to do a little bit of a different topic. We're going to talk about foreign ownership as us being the foreign buyers. And hi Deborah, how are you? So we're going to talk about Mexican ownership. Now, I wanted to pick this topic because I actually own property in Mexico, and I did a lot of research before buying my property. Now, I know that a lot of you out there would like to potentially buy a retirement or vacation property. Maybe you're getting a little older and the cold doesn't feel as good anymore. Hi, Bev. Hi, Kimber. So I wanted to talk about, some of the things to look out for. And some of my own experiences. Saludos from Zilo, awesome. So my house actually is in Manzanillo, Mexico, which is on the Pacific side, and it's about 4 hours south of Puerto Vallarta. Now, the one thing that people think is that when you buy real estate in other countries, that it's going to be the same as it is for the US or Canada, which is absolutely incorrect. Things are done very, very different, especially in Mexico. So when I first bought my place, I actually did what I think people naturally do. And I think when people come from different countries, even to Vancouver to buy a property, they will gravitate to their own culture, their own background. It's not always the best avenue, and mainly because obviously if an expat is selling real estate in Mexico, they may or may not be familiar with all of the rules. So hey Clara, nice to see you. So it's a really good idea if you can sort of team up maybe with someone that you feel comfortable with as well as a local. So that way you're going to get a little bit of the best of both, so that you can feel comfortable with the person you're working with. But there's a few things and stories that I've heard where actually using a foreigner to buy in a foreign country has backfired and actually been quite fraudulent. So definitely be careful of that. So they do in Mexico have an association, just like our real estate association. It's called AMPI. And AMPI is basically an association that you can pay as a realtor to belong to. And it's deemed to be a more professional standard. However, they do definitely have some problems with their AMPI association, and so I wouldn't say that all AMPI members would be professional, although I guess that's the same in every area. So in Mexico, I can't remember the date, but I know that it changed, but originally you couldn't actually buy property in Mexico. The Mexican government deemed all of their property to be what's called ejido land, which is native land, and you could not make foreign purchases there. In 1973, they did change that, and they allowed foreign buyers to buy with what's called a fideicomiso. And the fideicomiso is essentially a bank trust. So the bank will hold the title for you, and you will pay a fee to the bank in order to own the property. So this is very important, because if you are talking to someone that says, oh yeah, no problem, you can own property outright in Mexico, it's absolutely incorrect. Now, there is jurisdictions which are, I believe, 50 kilometers from the coastline, which is the territory that you would require a fideicomiso, or 50 kilometers from the border. However, most people that I know that are going to buy in a foreign country are wanting to be near the beach. You probably don't want to be more than 50 kilometers away from the coastline anyway. So you would more than likely have to buy with a fideicomiso. So, as I said, a fideicomiso is a bank trust. Now, I've heard of people that have been interested in properties online, and they were told, yes, you can write an offer on the property. We require a 10% deposit, and they are holding your deposit in a US account or a Canadian account. Absolutely not okay. the Mexican government shuns against that completely because they don't want, obviously, the money to not be registered in their own country. So if anybody ever tells you when you're going to purchase that you need to put a deposit, they do not have the same system here. In fact, no deposit is actually required until you actually go forth to check title, and you do the deal essentially through a notary, but directly with the seller. So very, very different than we do here in Canada. One way that you can bypass having to buy through a fideicomiso is if you buy, if a Mexican corporation buys property. So if you form a Mexican corporation as a foreigner, you would have the ability to buy without having a fideicomiso, and the corporation would then own the property. Hi, Bryn. Hi, Yvonne. And hi, Cameron. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. So you can do that. However, that also comes with its own set of problems, because if you form a corporation, then you will have to do income tax returns yearly to show, even if there is no income, you would still have to file. Let's talk a little bit about status there. So I actually have a permanent resident status card for Mexico, and that in itself was not easy to get. Initially, I had to get a yearly permit, which allowed me to stay for a full year. So every year it would renew, and after 5 years, I was able to apply for a permanent resident card. They seem to change the rules on that, but the card that I applied for initially was called an FM3. So it's basically a temporary tourist visa. Because initially, when you go to Mexico, they generally will give you about a 6-month pass to stay, which means obviously you have to leave the country after 6 months, and it makes it a little bit difficult if you're wanting to buy property and maybe stay past that 6-month period. So really good idea to check into the different immigration rules. Anybody interested in doing any purchases in Mexico, I have a great set of resources over there that would be happy to answer any questions for you, and I can link you to any of those. Now, again, different rules are in different areas. In Manzanillo, Mexico, you know, I'm more comfortable and familiar with those, and I have the contacts there. Now, lending, let's talk about lending. If you don't actually have the money, there is actually mortgage companies that will lend on Mexican-owned properties. A little bit different than in Canada. Again, you have to have a much bigger down payment. Interest rates are higher, and there are no terms. So you would have and pay that interest rate for the entire duration of the loan until it's paid off, or until you pay out the balance in one lump sum. So that is kind of a little bit of an overview on Mexican-owned properties. Things to look out for basically is anyone asking for a deposit in advance. My recommendation is always go down and rent for a while. You know, depending on what area of Mexico, you'll get a good feel for what the market is doing. There's really 2 kinds of markets. There's the Mexican market, and then there's the expat market. The prices are very different. And so be careful so that you don't get caught in overpaying for a property that you may think is an amazing deal, but in fact, you're causing a further problem down the road for the local Mexicans to be able to afford buying in their own property or in their own area. And I know all of you know what that is like, because we've experienced that in our own market, and a lot of local people are not even able to afford to get into the real estate market because the pricing had been pushed so high that it's unaffordable for the average person. So anyway, that is my little tidbit on Mexican property. Hi, Kathy, nice to see you. And so I will do a few more, I think, on Mexican ownership. I also have a very good contact in Arizona for those of you that are a little too nervous to cross the border and live in Mexico part-time or full-time. There's a lot of opportunity to buy in the US, and there's some different set of rules that go with that. So stay tuned, and I will fill you in on buying in US states such as, you know, Palm Desert, if you want to go to Palm Springs, Arizona, any of those, you know, California, any of those places. So hopefully you found this informative, and I guess I will see you guys on Thursday for the next Vancity Scoop, and you're very welcome. Talk to you soon, Sandra. Adios. Bye.